Hello, and welcome to Appleton Engaged. I'm your host, Timber Smith, DEI Coordinator for the City of Appleton.
And I'm Sarah Schneider, Mobility Manager at Valley Transit.
And Appleton Engaged is a podcast that explores the many people, organizations, and resources that make our community a great place to live, work, and play. So whether you're a longtime resident or just getting to know Appleton, join us as we learn more about our community together.
Timber, one of the things that is amazing about the Appleton Engage podcast is all of the resources in our community that we get to learn about. And I'm embarrassed to say that if it wasn't for Leadership Fox Cities, a program of the Fox Cities Chamber, I would have never known about Heckrodt. So I'm excited to have our guest today.
Well, Sarah, I'm going to say if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know about Heckrodt. So I'm really excited to learn more about this today. I can say that I've at least had the opportunity to go visit, but that was just a brief visit, and I feel like this is an opportunity to learn a whole lot more. All right, so at this time, our guest is Luke Schiller, Executive Director of Heckrodt Wetland Reserve. What's going on, Luke?
Hello, nice to meet you guys. Thank you for allowing me to come on and share my passion and place where I work.
Hey, thank you for making time to be here with us and the Appleton Engaged listeners. Luke, if you don't mind, can you please share a little something about yourself and your association with Appleton and the surrounding Fox Cities region?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I originally grew up in the West Metro of Minnesota, and from an early age, from probably about 8 or 9, I knew I wanted to be in the environmental education field. So picking my school, picking my high school classes, where I wanted to go to college, it was pretty easy for me, right? It was either Stevens Point or Iowa State. Those are some of the good schools that have that. And because I had some good scholarships, I was fortunate enough to head to Iowa State, where I got my degree in environmental education. And from that moment on, I was teaching kids and connecting our community to nature. And I moved to the Valley 16 years ago for a job at Heckrodt to be a frontline educator at Heckrodt Wetland Reserve. Kind of in this field, you kind of build your seasonal full-time experience. So I have experience down in Georgia teaching inner-city Atlanta youth. I've worked with military youth overseas in Hawaii, Italy, and Germany, and did some camps in northern Minnesota. And that's kind of where I really saw like the power and the healing effect of nature and how we can move our minds and ourselves forward together when you have that connection with nature.
Wow. Well, at this time, can you please share about your resource?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough to be the executive director at Heckrodt Wetland Reserve, and what makes my job the best is I get to strive to connect our community to nature every day. And what does that mean? That could mean making a field trip more affordable for a teacher, or making the trail accessibility more friendly for someone pushing a wheelchair or somebody pulling a stroller. So whatever that may be, we work hard every day to kind of eliminate barriers and to connect our community to nature.
How long has Heckrodt been around?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we officially became a nonprofit in the early 90s, but the Heckrodt family donated 5 acres to the city of Menasha and in the 70s and contributed donation dollars, and with matching grants through the Wisconsin DNR, they were able to piece together 76 acres. And we are fortunate enough to purchase an additional acreage across the road. So today we're just under 100 acres. We're around 91 acres. And we've been teaching EE full-time right around since the 1997. So
I have to ask, EE.
Environmental education.
Okay.
So picture going on a field trip to like a nature center. So environmental education. And that could mean doing a field trip or just providing education, whether you're a guided hike, we're walking with a naturalist, or designing the signs or interpretation for the visitor experience.
Luke, I do know from my experience at Heckrodt that you create experiences and people see a new facet of our community. You almost don't realize you're actually almost near a city when you're on your property. Share a story, give us a narrative, help our listeners understand the importance of what you do and what your resource is.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are surrounded by the city of Menasha, and kind of what makes Heckrodt unique is to the south we have Neenah, and to the north we have Appleton, and we're kind of in the heart of the Fox Valley. If you're able to get on the bus line, there's a bus stop less than a half a mile away. We're right on the biking trail. We also provide a parking lot for those of you who have a vehicle to get here. But we have 3 distinct habitats, right? So it's not just going out for a walk in the woods. We have a prairie habitat, which is a lot of grasses and flowers, and we have our forested wetland. So I'm sure you've seen pictures of the boardwalk going through the forested wetland, where we have over 3 miles of trails. And then the third habitat is our forest, and that's kind of where we built our children's wild space, where children can play, learn, and explore. Because we obviously know that children learn best when they're playing and exploring. So those are 3 distinct habitats. So if you think about visiting Heckrodt, those are the destinations, or we call those interpretive spots that we encourage you to visit and see when you're here. But we average over 145,000 visitors a year, whether it's school children, whether it's walking groups, whether it's photographers, whether it's mom groups walking, whether it's veterans kind of connecting together and going for a walk and just sharing in their experience. We are the place where people can connect and get therapy in nature.
Well, what else do you do? Because it's not just like you said. It's not just walking around, and it's just not connecting with nature. It seems like there's programming there, and there's things to do. So can you share that?
Sure, you bet. So Heckrodt is a 501c3 nonprofit. We do teach over 10,000 program participants a year, and those program participants are school-age children, their child care centers, their families that would come for our public programs. We offer a public program once a month. As an example, in the fall, we host a creepy crawly haunted trail event, usually the first weekend in October. But it just provides an opportunity for people to connect with nature in all seasons.
Wait, are those real creepy crawlies? I gotta ask. Oh man, I'm gonna skip that one.
So we have some live animals that you can see, but otherwise there's also some fun Halloween blow-ups. Where we really celebrate the season in October. We also offer the opportunity to snowshoe, and for people to provide that experience with them, to get them out snowshoeing in nature. One thing that's also unique is we do keep our trails snow-blowed. We have a trail that we snow-blow even when we have snow. So 365 days a year, you can walk a half a mile loop in the forested wetland. And then we also provide an opportunity for corporations to volunteer their time and talents. As you know, when you put your talents to good, everybody else around you does even better. So we work with over 30 corporate groups every year, whether it's trail maintenance, whether it's planting, whether it's restoring habitat, to working on boardwalks.
Luke, I love the animal aspect of the nature. And I heard, and I don't know if I read it on your Facebook page, but there was a mama duck and her baby ducks crossing a bridge, and one duck got left behind. And, that story just broke my heart. Like, what happens in real nature when these animals are just surviving? So what role do you play in preserving or, just sustaining living beings?
Sure, that's a great question. So as urban sprawl happens, right, the habitats for our wildlife critters are becoming more fragmented. And what that means is they're seeking our green spaces, whether it's parks, whether it's nature centers, and directly Heckrodt becomes the go-to experts or the frontline triage of these injured or orphan wildlife. So we take over 50 calls a year where we're just helping the community. Is this a duck? Is this an owl? Should you go seek veterinarian care? Is this something you just leave alone and let nature kind of find its balance and move on? But so what makes Heckrodt is unique is we have over 3 naturalists on staff and 2 other staff who do a site and habitat work, and we're all pretty confident and comfortable with providing guidance on what to do with those injured or orphan wildlife.
What kind of animals might you see at Heckrodt?
So it is a forested wetland with prairie. So you have your larger mammals like your white-tailed deer, your foxes, and your raccoons, and your possums. We have butterflies, right, all of our unique pollinators. But what's really cool with Heckrodt is the neotropical species. So these are the birds that fly to Central America, South America during the colder months. As they're flying north in the spring, they often stop over at Heckrodt and hunker down for about a week and a half before they continue on their way. So it's a great time if you're a birder to kind of come out and walk the trails, or if you're a new birder, you just come in and stop in the nature center, and the staff will kind of direct you where to go and what make these species so unique. So if you picture Lake Winnebago, you make this flight, and then they see this big, huge green space. And so they offer recharge, so they rest and they eat the bugs in the canopy, and that provides enough protection for them to kind of continue on, or they raise their family there.
I know, I do believe that some of the trails are accessibility friendly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as soon as you get to the parking lot, it's zero entry from the parking lot all the way into our wetland. And we tried really hard to make our approaches and our ramps going up to our boardwalk ADA friendly. And that kind of extended over into our larger projects. So in 2020, we constructed the Children's Wild Space. It's an outdoor learning space where we teach a lot of school kids, as well as a place for families to, again, to connect with nature. And that was built in mind to get grandparents, children in wheelchairs up into the canopy and to kind of see that forest in that different perspective. And we just opened, and at the end of 2024, the Coneflower Pavilion. And if you picture coming over to the prairie, as soon as you get off that bridge, the height of the pavilion was determined by the length of approach that we had. So to be ADA friendly, you need to be so far and rise so much. So from the end of the boardwalk to the center of where we wanted our platform to be, that is what really guided the height of the Coneflower Pavilion.
I also would love to inquire about your role in what invasive species are there, or are there any threats to nature there?
So Heckrodt plays a vital role in kind of educating our community on what is an invasive species. So an invasive species is a plant or animal that is not normally found in the native habitat. So it could be buckthorn, it could be zebra mussels, and they generally outcompete our native species. So they grow faster, they eat quicker, or with plants, they bloom longer, they photosynthesize longer in the season, and they outcompete our native species, what causes an imbalance in our forest and our habitats. So Heckrodt, obviously, we manage them, and then we work with corporate and volunteers to kind of help us do our work. But the goal is that whenever everybody becomes more aware of it, they kind of take what they learned and spread that out in the community. And it's going to be an ongoing thing. In kind of the environmental-led world, we say that we will be dealing with invasive species for our entire working career. So buckthorn, Japanese knotweed, it's here to stay. We just got to know where are the appropriate places to use those resources and where is it not. Heckrodt is, in 2024, we introduced goats as a management tool over on the western edge of the prairie, where we're just trying to reduce the risk of injury and or reducing the amount of herbicides we're placing on the property. And the goats with sheep, in theory, are eating kind of the buckthorn, causing them to go in shock, and then they resprout, and you bring those grazers back. And then the plan is that it kind of hurts the root systems, or they often die over repeated grazing.
That's fascinating.
That's cool. The goats come in and handle the business.
Yeah, for real.
That's fabulous. What is a misunderstanding or a myth that people might have about a nature reserve?
Especially wetlands, right? Wetlands stink and wetlands have bugs, right? We hear that all the time. And yes, wetlands do have bugs, but there's also predators that take care of them, whether it's bats, whether it's dragonflies. And because of where Heckrodt sits, and when we get rain, the water is kind of flushed through the wetland. So when you come to hike at Heckrodt Wetland Reserve, the air is fresh, the mosquitoes aren't crazy bad, because we do have predators to keep those in check. So if you don't necessarily get bit up by bugs, you can still enjoy Heckrodt and have a good time.
Facts. That's awesome. Are there any upcoming initiatives, events, or engagement opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like I said, we just opened on our Coneflower Pavilion, and as we began that journey to create a space welcoming for all, we really focused on the monarch butterfly and that story, or that metamorphic effect, where it transforms from a caterpillar to a beautiful butterfly. So that transformation, if you picture where that site is, it was actually a brownfield site where we had paper mill sludge and various other contaminants. And we worked with the DNR to reclaim that as a prairie, right? So you go from a wasteland to a biodiverse prairie, go from a caterpillar to a butterfly, kind of that transformation effect. And then you have this journey of this insect that flies from Menasha, Wisconsin, all the way down to Mexico. So this one insect is connecting two countries. And so when we started this project, we wanted to tie in that aspect. So we worked with the Multicultural Coalition to give us knowledge and resources and context to build relationships with the Latino and Latina community. So we were able to translate the signs in both Spanish and English. And we're able to form relationships within our community, where we met an individual who actually visited the migrating monarch grounds in Mexico, and she kind of shared her story. And then we had a great connection with the Banta Bilingual School in Menasha, where we had a fifth grader share his experience where he raised monarch butterflies in Menasha. So like this cool connection between this one insect connecting these two countries. So we're still improving and still trying to represent and provide a safe place for all participants in the Fox Valley. So that's kind of a cool success that we've been working on.
That's a great story. You mentioned earlier volunteers and corporate partnerships, field trips, activities that you have going on. Is there anything that you specifically want the community to know what they can do to be helpful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first way how you build your affinity with kind of Heckrodt is getting out and experiencing kind of those three distinct habitats. And when you're there, you'll see the passion that the staff have and the enthusiasm that we share every day of connecting our local community to nature. And after you participate in a program, we encourage you to kind of volunteer, whether it's individually, as a family, or if you're fortunate enough to have a place of employment that supports volunteering in the community. Be that advocate. Kind of get outside, get that vitamin D, and improve the community. And you'll be surprised how good you feel when you kind of come out and volunteer in nature.
What does volunteer opportunities look like exactly? Or what would that look like for people who might want to get dirty?
Sure. Or we've even had like former educators that maybe they just retired out of the classroom and they still have the itch to work with youth and have an impact with the younger generations. So they kind of shadow our naturalists and kind of learn the ropes, if you will. And when they feel confident and comfortable, we either co-teach, or if they're really into frogs, they kind of lead the frog program as an example. We've had former builders. We had one individual who just happened to retire as we were building our boardwalk structure. And he had some strong connections to bolt construction, and his passion and knowledge of the construction progress kind of helped made the wild space possible, kind of helped make the Coneflower Pavilion possible. So you don't know where your passions can align until you kind of come out and donate your time and talent at the reserve. Corporate volunteers, like I said, we welcome over 30 corporate volunteers a year, and they work on trail maintenance. They kind of help pull invasives. They help paint some structures from like just land management and site. They also set up for kind of our public programs that we have. We have 4 or 5 major public programs throughout the year. In the first weekend of June, we offer the free fishing day. So we try to eliminate the barriers of fishing, right? Because there's cost, there's the equipment barrier, there's the location barrier. So we provide a positive experience fishing with families. So that's in June. And then in the end of the summer, we host the Heckrodt Prairie Hootenanny, where we just celebrate kind of the growth and progress that we made on that former landfill site, where we celebrate the animals, the music, and food in kind of the Midwest region. And then in the fall, we have our creepy crawlies. And then in our winter, we have our children's Christmas gift workshop, where children kind of come and create gifts, whether it's recycled, whether it's objects from nature, and then they end up giving these gifts out to loved ones at the holiday season.
So is there an opportunity like to rent space at Heckrodt, like a birthday party or something?
Yeah. We do offer that opportunity. Birthday parties usually happen on the weekend. We are open Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and on Saturdays, 11 to 4. Sunday, Monday, we're closed. But yes, we do offer that opportunity to rent that space. We often do corporate retreats. As we build a connection, I often lead our corporate groups on a one-on-one hike where they just learn about kind of the ongoings and the operations of the reserve, and to kind of connect and to get out in nature.
I know you pride yourself on the accessibility aspect of Heckrodt, and I particularly think that is incredible. Do you offer any kind of like the trailblazing types of mobility devices, or are there other accommodations you would make for people who want to check you out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we currently have wheelchair use. We have wagons that families could use as well. So if you get to the reserve and you realize your sore knee is acting up and you need somebody to help push you in a wheelchair, we have the ability to kind of let you borrow that wheelchair for the day.
I felt like you were looking at me when you said that.
We all have those trick knees that act up. Yeah.
All those creaks and
There's a few extra creaks now.
snaps and pops.
That's right.
But we do allow the usage of those all-terrain vehicles for people with mobility limitations.
Okay. Well, this sounds amazing. Who can people contact if they would like to learn more?
Yeah. So you have a couple ways to connect. You can follow our social media, or you can go to our website at heckrodwetland.org, or you can reach out and just call. You can reach out to me or the other 5 staff that work at Heckrodt. But the best way is to either call or to reach out via email from our website.
Okay. Is there any additional information you feel is important for the Appleton Engaged listeners to know that maybe we didn't ask a question about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say Heckrodt is not just ours, right? It's also a place where we celebrate the biodiversity of the animals. So if you're looking for a place to kind of connect with your family for free, we welcome you to kind of come and enjoy Heckrodt and see kind of the beauty in all seasons. In Wisconsin, we're fortunate enough to have those 4 seasons, and Heckrodt provides those opportunities throughout the year, whether it's walking, whether it's snowshoeing, whether it's playing at the wild space or seeing some pollinators do their thing over on the prairie.
Luke, I have something I'd love you to expand on. Mental health is on the top of everybody's mind, and I know nature is always a way for people to just really do some meditation, some relaxation techniques. In this busy environment, I know you mentioned 3 miles of trails.
Yeah.
You know, can that be done in a lunch hour? Can that, you know, how is that segmented? What time frame would you commit to if you were going to stop out?
Yeah, that's a great point. I even try to just remind the staff and even myself just to be mindful. You just take 15, 20 minutes a day, just kind of disconnect from your office space or what you're doing and to try to go for a walk. And if you're able to make it to Heckrodt, you can do kind of the half-a-mile loop in 9 minutes at a slow pace, or you can even walk around the green loop, which is just over a mile, and you can kind of be done in like 20 to 23 minutes. Like I said, if you're a corporate group wanting to connect with the reserve, we do those lunch and learns where individuals kind of come out in their lunch hour and we kind of get out and we do a hike and we kind of learn about the distinctive highlights of the reserve, and that way you can kind of share that with your family. But yeah, just that 10 to 15 minutes a day does add up, and it does kind of make you happier at the end of the day.
I would think so. Well, Timber, it is time for some shout outs, and I know you've given some maybe hints at people you want to recognize or just people that make this possible. So here's your moment.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we want to thank kind of the Heckrodt family to have that vision in place to realize that the forested wetland was a place that we'd want to enjoy for future generations. What's cool is the family has stuck by the goal of keeping this wild space wild and kind of continue to provide that support. And I just want to thank our volunteers as well, because we wouldn't be nothing without the dedicated support of the volunteers. We average over 4,000 volunteer hours a year. And like I said, whether it's educators, whether it's people that keep the lawn mowed, the parking lot plowed, it all adds up to create awesome experience out in nature. So the Heckrodt family, our volunteers, and kind of the donors that realize that making nature accessible costs some money, but it's a definite worthwhile investment, not only for yourself, but also for future generations as well.
Well, Luke, we want to say thank you to you.
Yeah, thank you.
At this time, Appleton Engaged listeners, we're going to start wrapping up this episode. So, Appleton Engaged listeners, thank you for spending time with us, giving us your minds and ears, being vested in this community, caring about another amazing resource that's making our region, our city, a better place. But you know what we're trying to do? We're trying to become the #1 podcast in Northeast Wisconsin, and we cannot do that without your help. So what we need you to do, if you have any ideas about things to improve the podcast, if you've got questions you would like us to ask the Appleton Engaged listener or guests, if you would like to be a guest, or maybe you would like to recommend a guest, please feel free to reach out to us at diversity@appleton.org. Once again, that's diversity@appleton.org. Also, we think we have something very, very special here, helping to make our community a better place. We think the more eyes and ears that learn about this resource called Appleton Engaged, it helps us become more informed. It helps us connect. It helps create this product, this platform of belonging. So for us to get in front of more eyes and ears, once again, we need your help. So take a moment while you're listening to this podcast and give us a rating, preferably 5 stars. And also, if you've got a few more moments, just fill out a review. Those things, the review and the rating, helps increase our analytics, and the better our analytics, the more people will learn about Appleton Engaged.
And I would just love to, again, extend our appreciation to Luke and all of the team and volunteers that make Heckrodt a place for our community to enjoy prairie, forest, wetland. Who knew? It's just a short trip up the road for us to enjoy nature and really value such an asset in our community. So until next time, we ask our listeners to stay thoughtful, stay curious, and stay engaged.